Thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone, and good morning, good morning. It's great to be in Las Vegas here. I'm Bob Friday. I was the co-founder of MIST. I am now the Chief AI Officer of Juniper's networking business. And standard joke, if you bet a dollar 20 years ago, I'd end my career as a Chief AI Officer, you guys all be millionaires by now. So for our lawyers out here, quick disclaimer. We have families to feed, so please download that app. 5 stars, everyone. Now, for me personally, the journey to a self-driving, Marvis self-driving network actually started when I was at Cisco. And I was trying to convince a very large retailer that they should put a Wi-Fi mobile experience app onto their customer's phone. And the CIO told me that she wasn't going to put anything business critical app on her network until I could promise her that I could stop wireless controllers from crashing. I could deliver code faster than 2 or 3 times a year to keep up with their mobile app innovation. But most importantly, she said she wasn't going to put anything on that network unless I could promise that her customers were going to have a great mobile internet experience. That is when I realized that while we need to keep AP switches and routers up and running, it was not sufficient. That there was a fundamental paradigm shift from just managing network elements to managing this client-to-cloud user experience. And since 2014, when we started MIST, we have been on the journey to build a self-driving network that can predict and optimize that mobile internet experience. And when Suji and I left Cisco, we knew that we had to build a microservices cloud architecture to support day 2 real-time cloud AI ops. And that cloud architecture had to have great APIs. We also knew organizationally, we had to tie the data science team together with the customer support team to make sure that we were going to get the right data we needed to the cloud to solve this problem. Now, I would tell you that this cloud-first, AI-first strategy is actually the foundation for this new agentic era. You look at where we're at right now, agentic MCP requires great APIs, right? You need great tools to make this agentic journey work. So the reason I haven't retired yet, because I'm waiting for the next episode of networking in the agentic era. This agentic, non-deterministic automation tool is the catalyst that's going to let us to start to deliver a Waymo-like self-driving experience in the networking space. Now, I've been using this chart for about 8 years because the technology milestones to a self-driving network have not changed in 8 years. And the first milestone on the journey is data. And the reason we built an access point when we started this wasn't because I thought the industry needed another access point. It's because I really didn't trust Cisco and Aruba to give the data I need. You need to make sure you have the right data in the cloud to solve these problems. And the latest innovation in the area of data is what we call Marvis Minis. This is basically a digital twin user that lives on the access point and the switch and the router. And Marvis Mini starts to bring WAN information and visibility. This is from the AP to that app in the cloud visibility on the back end. The next big milestone on the journey is around this service level experience. So the other big paradigm shift, I was also the co-founder of a company called Airspace. And 20 years ago, it was all about trying to bring data back from switches, APs, to actually keep these devices up and running. In this journey, it's really about the user experience. And we now keep track of every user connected to the network every minute. And that's the beginnings of being able to use math to basically find what network feature is causing a bad user experience minute. And the latest innovation in the area of SLEs is around this generalized large experience model where we take millions of Zoom team sessions, join that data with network feature data, and then train models that can actually predict video collaboration user experience. And then you use some fancy math known as Shapley to figure out which network features is contributing to that bad minute. The next major milestone on the journey was really around customer support. If you look at customer support, they are a proxy for our enterprise customers. Every ticket that our customers send us, our support team sees. So I made sure that the support team was a part of my data science team. And their mission was to make sure that we reduce the number of support tickets that my support team sees. The fewer support tickets they see, or the fewer support tickets our customers are sending us. And in a self-driving network, in theory, there should be no support tickets. This should be like the Maytag repairman story when we get this to all work. Now, I've been a big fan of conversational interface since 2018. Marvis has had a conversational natural language interface since 2018, but it's really with the Agentic AI that came out in 2022 that has given Marvis a voice and reasoning. So this is basically, you were watching the industry move from CLIs to dashboards, Agentic AI CIs. This is going to be the new interface into networking. You know, we're not going to be scrolling around dashboards to find answers. You'll be using your AI assistant like you use ChatGPT to figure out what's going. Now, I've had Marvis Actions since 2018 also. The big innovation in this area is really the trust list. We are going to be bringing more with Agentic AI. Once you trust Marvis to find that missing VLAN, it will ask you every time till you get tired. And eventually, once you trust Marvis, you are going to put that missing VLAN action onto the trust list. And then Marvis will start taking care of it. This is the beginnings of that Waymo self-driving experience where you finally trust Marvis like you trust that self-driving car to get you from A to B. Now, a little bit more about this customer support story. This graph here goes back to 2023. I have had the customer support team looking at support tickets using Marvis since 2018. The first part of this graph, the orange part at the top, shows you how often a support person had to go into an access point or a switch to solve a problem. When you start this journey, you want that to be 0. You want to make sure that your support team is not logging into devices. The data has to be in the cloud. Now, it took me about a year to actually get the support team to actually figure out what data was coming back. And I would tell you, culturally is a difference. You know, for you or in IT, when you start to take away the SSH keys from your support team, it's like taking candy away from a kid. They do not want to give up those keys. You've got to culturally train them to trust the data in the cloud. Now, the blue and red piece tells you how often did Marvis actually help the support team solve a ticket. And you can kind of see it's been bouncing around for the last couple of years. That's because every time we found something in support, we move that back into the product. So the tickets that the support team sees get harder and harder. Now, my personal theory is this Agentic AI, this non-deterministic agentic automation tool we have now, is going to let us start to take care of the tail. You know, and then we're going to push us above 90% now. We'll be able to start solving these harder post-connection problems. Now, when we started Mist, most of my customers basically told us there's only really 2 problems in networking. I can't connect, and the network sucks. Right? You know, application's not working. Typically, if you're a support person in IT, you really don't get much information. All you get is something's slow, something's bad. These are very hard problems in networking. And this is where Agentic AI is going to help us to start to automate that. So for those of you, see how many of you are building your own little MCP servers now? How many MCP, okay, you know, It's becoming about skills and tools, right? I mean, what we're fundamentally doing, the Agentic AI is a new programming language in English. So anyone who can write English can now be an agentic programmer. You know, when we create these skills, these skill files are really just English files translating run books. So right now we're taking customer support run books and we're translating them into English. And those skill files are telling us how to solve problems and what tools and APIs to use. And so this is where you have to have very good APIs to actually solve problems, and you have to have very good tools. And this is where our minis and our large experience model are the type of tools you need to actually solve post-connection problems, right? What minis is bringing to the table is more visibility on the WAN. The access point gives us tons of visibility on the wireless link, right? When I look at my client to cloud problem, I've got client, I got wireless, I got LAN, and I got WAN to try to figure out, and we got the application in the cloud to try to figure out what went wrong with something. Mini starts to bring that WAN visibility, you know, from the AP to the cloud. Where is the problem in that? Is it the WAN connection or the LAN connection? And the large experience model really brings in that predictability of trigger. So when you look at the agentic framework that we're building, the same agentic framework that we're using for troubleshooting with humans, trying to solve problems, is the same framework our self-driving agents are using. So when we start to see user bad minutes get in trouble, you know, and I would tell you video collaboration users are your canary in the coal mine, right? When your network starts to have latency, jitter, packet loss, it's usually your video collaboration users who are going to be the first to notice that problem. And that is where the large experience model starts to become the trigger into this self-driving agent. And Mini starts to become the tool to start to sort out what piece of the networking puzzle is causing the problem. Now, I know for me personally, those who know me, I make 1 barrel of wine a year. And I used to say, great wine starts with great grapes, great AI starts with great data. I've slightly modified that to great AI, great self-driving starts with great APIs. You know, when we get into this agentic thing, it's all about the APIs and tools that you're using. I used to also say that organic chemistry was harder than networking. It's very hard to figure out why, you know, one bottle of wine tastes better than another bottle of wine. It's kind of the eye of the beholder. Agentic AI is also a non-deterministic process. You know, and I'm convinced now that the next big agentic programmers, they're not going to be computer scientists. They're going to be English majors. You know, if you want someone who really knows how to pull together a non-deterministic automation tool, you're going to want someone who really understands how to create prompts, English language. You're going to want to make sure they understand all the subtle differences between the LLMs, big models, small models, which models to use. So I'm starting to convince myself that winemaking, organic chemistry, it's going to be some par with agentic programming. You know, I could have 2 engineers write this, try to solve the same skill file, and I'll probably get slightly different results, and I may like one slightly better than the other. You know, so that's my analogy between agentic programmers and winemakers. You're going to find some people are slightly better at this than other people. And they'll probably be more artistic in nature. They'll probably have a better feel for all the moving pieces. You know, the barrels, you know, and I've done this now, I've convinced myself, it's funny how people can taste the difference between oak and French. You know, same thing with tools. You'll find out some tools are better at solving problems than other tools. And for me, I do not buy wine I have not tasted. I've gotten to the point now, it's like, oh, I'm gonna go to the grocery store and just pick a bottle off the shelf. I have to really try and taste it before I get it. I would say the same thing with this agentic solutions, self-driving solutions. I would suggest you have to actually do a POC. It's really hard from PowerPoint to tell the difference between one solution and another. You know, like winemaking, this is going to become a game of actually tasting it and trying it to see if it actually solves your problem. So that's kind of a short intro into my journey to the self-driving network. I'm be around on the side a little bit for anyone who wants to take questions. Really enjoy seeing you all here. Some of you know, a couple of you have been at the show a couple times. He's heard the same pitch a couple times. So anyway, I want to thank everyone. Feel free to come over and chat if you have time.